Hello, everybody, and welcome to Matrix Media. I'm Beth Donnelly, and I'm here with my co-host, Dagny Grant. How are you doing, Dagny?
Really well. Really excited about having this conversation with Petra today.
Oh, aren't we? We are really kind of on the edge of our seats, so to speak, about our interview with Petra, who is here to talk about her new book, The Billionaire The Continuum, and it is a timely and thought-provoking novel about wealth and power and sexual abuse, trafficking, politics, corruption, the afterlife, reincarnation, and hope. Wow, that is a list of compelling topics, isn't it? Just a little bit of history, though, about Petra's life as a best-selling author. Her first book, Petra's Ashes, was hailed as a spellbinding memoir about her near-death experience and the spiritual journey that followed. She then co-authored The Big Secret with Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and is published in the anthology Life Sparks, life stories to illuminate, inspire, and ignite. And now her novel, The Billionaire The Continuum, is a continuation of the big question in her life. And we'll hear more about her journey today as she speaks to us. The Billionaire novel lets you into the secrets of the universe and gives you insights into what humanity has grappled with since the beginning of time. Why are we here? Well, we are so happy to have you here today, Petra. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Beth and Dagny. It's so wonderful to be back on your show again.
Oh, good. So I guess my first question is going to be, what motivated you to write this book, The Billionaire? How did you just get the idea? What started you?
Well, it was it was late one evening, and I have to change the story a little bit because I'm not really supposed to talk about it, so it's a secret. There are a lot of secrets. But basically, it was a very good friend of mine who told me a story about being in Los Angeles and being taken to a meeting to leave money to an organization so that in his next life he would get his money back. And when he told me this, because, I lived in India, I was with a spiritual teacher in India, and the whole idea of karma, I mean, how do we ever know what exactly God wants to allot to us in our next life? And it is usually based on our actions in this life. And so when he told me the story, I literally fell off the couch and rolled on the carpet. I was laughing. I was laughing and laughing and laughing. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I went to bed that night, and at about 2:00 in the morning, literally I heard this voice that was trying to get my attention. Wake up, wake up. And I laid there for another hour and finally got up. And this entire story was downloaded into my system. I mean, I had the whole story from beginning to end in my head.
Oh, amazing.
Then there were the fillers in the end,
Of course.
When you have an epiphany or things come to you like this and the universe wants to give you a story or an idea, an invention. So that's how it was.
So it didn't take very long.
Right, it's that trusting our intuition, trusting when we get those intuitive hits that Beth and I were actually just talking about that earlier this morning. It's so many folks get those intuitive hits and don't trust them and outthink themselves, right? And so good. It's great that you trusted that and went with the flow on that. That's fantastic.
Well, you both are authors, so when you get an idea in the car, you better have a recording system on your phone immediately and push the button, right?
Yeah, something to keep that thought going, right?
Yeah. So I've learned over time to when an idea comes, and I worked with an editor who was amazing. I mean, she could almost read my thoughts. I could send her recordings and I could send her, bits and pieces of things as the ideas were rolling in to create the content, because the outline of the book was given to me that night. So.
Amazing.
one of the things that you bring to the story is the storyline of sexual predators, and really a poignant topic for these, this day when women seem so empowered to talk about their stories now, and that whole pendulum that's balancing out the female energies. And it's really kind of amazing that you had already written this book when all the Harvey Weinstein stuff came out, and it's pretty wild the timing of that. Can you talk about how that kind of evolved a little bit in your storyline?
Yes, it was quite extraordinary. In the last chapter, when we were closing and trying to decide how to write the last chapter so that it could lead into a sequel or several sequels, because I see this as a Netflix series or as a movie, So obviously, I mean, books like this are very much fun. And I thought about the whole pedophilia thing. I've been following that for many, many, many years. I mean, this isn't new to me. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to create something where, again, speaking of karma, people become who they are in life, possibly because of a series of events that took place for them. We don't know yet how many of these men that are doing these things have been molested as children. Right. We do not know if this was already in a generational thing. We don't know if their uncle or their mother or their father or their sister, brother had somehow something to do with this. And so when people then pass or cross over, I do believe that we get to look at our lives. We get to take a life review and learn from those lessons of, and then hopefully choose a lifetime where we can clean some of this up. So. Well,
that makes sense. And one of the things that I believe in the life review and determining, on the other side what we, can what we got right, maybe what we need to continue growth on, and things like that. In regard to that, when we talk about these folks that are having this predatory behavior in this experience, and the Me Too movement, where so many women are and men actually are coming out and saying that they were abused, and are finding their voice on this, and are no longer feeling compelled to be silenced. One of the things that the points that you make in your book is that even these abusers have a chance to get it right in their next life. And I guess one of the things that, to what extent do you speak about that in your book? Tell our audience a little bit about that.
Well, I was also one of those people, part of the Me Too movement, with my teacher, that I trusted to be a father or a symbol of strength or a symbol of trust, and someone that I put all of my energy toward as a spiritual teacher to guide me. And so when that abuse happened, when that occurred for me personally, I could really feel into what victims of abuse experience. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't talk about it. I was silenced. I was too afraid to speak of it. Mm-hmm. So I really empathize with women or men that are going through this. And there are plenty of men as well.
Right, there are.
There are. And so I believe that we are here on the planet, that it is a schoolroom, and that we come here to go through different grades, 1st grade to 12th grade. And
so do you have characters in your book that go through this? How do you weave this into the actual storyline of your books?
Well, my character crosses over. He is diagnosed with cancer and dies, and he meets his guide, who takes him through this life review. And the guide's name is Michael. So in the story, you actually don't know if he is Archangel Michael or if he's just some random guide. So that's I love that about the story, because no one can really, you know, pinpoint it.
Is that coming up in the sequel, maybe?
Yes, it is actually. And then he starts to meet his teachers, people that come into his life that are assigned to teach him. Like we all have our teachers that we meet in our lifetimes. And so this character, Derek Stryker, comes back as Eli and is born in Oregon, in a little village outside of Eugene, in a farmhouse, and he becomes one of the biggest rock stars that has ever lived. But, you know, when he is 25 years old, he is then suddenly confronted with his guide, who had made a promise to him as Derek Stryker in his previous life that he would be guided and not make the same mistake. And yes, he has to make his money back because he signed the contract. And that is the key of the story.
But doesn't he want to come back as a poor man in Calcutta or something this time? But he's not granted that because of this contract that he signed with the secret society. Was Gemini? Is that the name of it? And
Gemini, yeah.
Okay, and he has to make his money back. And you know, this whole idea of the rock star. I wondered if you talk a little bit about that, because it's so it's so amazing. It's to talk about the purpose he is given to convert music from the 440 hertz scale into the 432 hertz scale, because, you know, 432 hertz is like the magic number everybody's talking about. It's said to be the natural frequency of the universe and has cosmic healing powers and all that. And you address this, do you not, in your book?
I talk about it, and as you are this amazing musician, Beth, and you play music every day, and you sing, and you have an extraordinary voice, so you can relate to this a lot. During the times of Hitler in Germany, and since I'm from Germany, this is something that has really concerned me. Hitler changed the frequency to play music to the people, to ignite within the system a more warlike nation, you know, more aggressive, more aggression. And then when you look at instruments, or you hear instruments in India, for example, the sitar or the bagpipes in Scotland, those are the higher sounds that take literally the soul into a higher frequency. And the meditation that I practiced was light and sound meditation, Surya Chapt Yoga, for 11 years. And so we were told to listen to the inner sound by plugging our ears. And so sometimes we could hear the sitar or violin internally.
Oh, wow. That's really incredible.
And so that's why this subject is very fascinating to me. I do believe that we can really help people with sound frequency.
And so if this character was to do this transference of Hertz vibrational sound, is he of the impression that other rock stars, other people, other orchestras will start doing this, and this will make some kind of a cosmic change in what's going on in the earth?
Well, Michael comes to Eli to basically tell him that he has a mission, and his mission, because he's a rock star and because he can reach millions of people, his mission is to change it back to the frequency where it was before and have as many people listen to the sound. And so the fascinating thing about this, and I don't know if you knew this before you read the story, Beth and Dagny, I was one morning, I usually get up around 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, religiously when it's quiet and no one's around. And I was sitting in my big chair. I think I was at our Woodland house, and I looked at frequency, vibration, and music, and an article came up with Carlos Santana being interviewed by Rolling Stones magazine. And what I didn't know was that Carlos Santana, you know, I mean, he did his share of crazy experimental, you know, psychedelics, but he had a visitation from Archangel Metatron, who told him about the frequency. And the entire album that he did, called Supernatural, is all dedicated to Archangel Metatron. And so in the book, I'm writing Carlos Santana into the story that wherever Carlos left off, Eli is supposed to carry on the work now.
Oh, wow.
So that's
that's really interesting. Dagny and I interviewed someone about a year ago or so talking about Archangel Metatron. Now, how does Metatron communicate about music?
Metatron, from what I understand, rules the material plane, and music is part of that. The 3D reality. So he makes it palatable for people who are working with him. I do believe that the more enlightened beings on the planet have connections to these celestial beings.
Yeah, so we had heard that he was more of a protective angel. So, but it's all, he had do more than one thing, that's for sure. So that's so interesting. Well, now I guess Dagny and I were actually talking about the sound frequency too, and the effect that maybe one person or one orchestra could have on humanity, and maybe how that would scope into more people adopting this. Just like you said, Hitler, started it during his day at the other number at 440. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Dagny? We were talking about that.
Well, it's an interesting concept that Hitler's involvement in that, I think, is interesting. The other research that you and I have done on the Hertz scale is had the Catholic Church of way before Hitler's time as involved in that transition as well. And so, I think it's an interesting thing. The more people become aware of that purity of tone and the vibrational hertz of sound, the more musicians that can become aware of that, the more expanded the correction of that can be on the planet. And so I think the more, everybody talking about that is great. I was not aware that Carlos Santana's Supernatural album was dedicated to Metatron. I think that's fabulous. I was not aware of that. So that is very cool. That's a very cool fun fact. When you talk about your character Derek Streifer having massive remorse when he goes to his life review, and his guide is Michael. Is Michael a representative of the Archangel Michael, or is it a completely different thing in your storyline?
We haven't disclosed it.
Oh, okay.
Dagny, and you will love this. Okay, there's a scene where Eli, the rock star, meets Michael when he emerges out of a mirror on his 25th birthday in the middle of the night. He suddenly moves out of the mirror. His face protrudes out and he falls to the ground. And there's this face of Michael in front of him. And he's so disturbed by this, and he goes for a walk along the River Thames in London, because that's where the party was for his 25th birthday.
Beautiful. And
so here's the movie that I see. There's Jeremy Irons in a trench coat walking in the fog, standing next to him suddenly. And that's Michael.
And that's Michael.
Oh, I love it. That's great. That's a beautiful thing. I love that.
I can see Michael as being an angel.
Well, he is an angel. He's a celestial being, and he comes in and out, like a ghost.
Yes.
But he can talk to him, and he can conjure him anytime he needs him. And so there are many wonderful scenes in the book about when Eli wakes up, when he becomes more conscious, because humanity's asleep.
Right.
And we have to become more conscious. The other day I was listening to the history of humanity on YouTube, and it's a fascinating 1.5 hour movie about the history of the Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata and the Vedas, and it goes back hundreds of thousands of years into the yugas And that's a whole other book right there.
Right.
But when you look at it, you know, if you were an angel or you were God, what would you do? You would send messengers to Earth, right? And you would also understand that everyone is being distracted, simply because we're in a physical body, and it's very difficult.
Well, it's one of the things I got to tell you that I love about that storyline that you just described, because one of the things, are you familiar at all with Mike?
Daniel?
Matt Kahn?
No. Oh,
okay,
yes, it's a couple. It's a couple, isn't it?
Yes, he does work with his business partner Julie Demar. Matt was just talking on a video a while back about spirit guides, and that to his way of thinking, that spirit, and he does some channeling and stuff, that our spirit guides are actually our soul, and in that they aren't external to us, but that when you said you can call them in at any time, the fun part about that conceptually, as I kind of tie that into what Matt was talking about, is when you talk about, for the most part, humanity is asleep and is not in an awakened state, and that it is when we connect with our soul, when we connect with source and our spirit, that we are guided in ways that serve us, right? And in ways that serve humanity. And that isn't that kind of a fun other way to look at it a little bit, that we can call it in anytime we want, because it isn't outside us.
It's like our inner spirit.
Right, exactly. That our own spirit is our guide to take our 3D body on this journey. And so yeah, just interesting in relation to, I don't know if that's in any way what you're kind of thinking in regard, or if you're thinking of Michael as being literally a third party entity, but it's what a fascinating thing to consider. How I bet it's I think our audience would really appreciate your book, because it's just so fun and such a great read, and really causes you to think, right? It causes people to think outside the box a little bit, and think of things in ways that they may not otherwise consider things. And
then the big one about coming back to the abuse, I wanted to get the point across that there is really no judgment. We are all here learning,
right.
And we cannot judge people that are ill, because it is a disease. It is an illness. Whenever we inflict pain upon another human, it is an illness. Because you have to be ill. You have to be somehow out of alignment with your spirit, with your soul, in order to commit a crime. Whether someone murders someone, or rapes, or causes, creates war, that is an illness.
Well, it certainly is. It's something that people need to ponder. And I think what you were talking about earlier is, why are we here? I was wondering if you might cover that, because I understand you figured that out throughout this novel, and why your main character is here. He figures that out. Why are you here?
Why am I here? Your question is, why am I here?
Yes.
What is just a little light question.
Oh my God, Beth, I need a drink of water.
Okay.
That's right. Just a light little question. Just
well, because Petra, you've had this near-death experience at the age of 9, and you've been, concerned about the future and why people are unable to live in the now, and all this. And then your main character is having that experience. So I'm sure that you have something really amazing to tell us about why you're here.
Obviously, I thought about this a lot, because I asked myself that when I was a very young child. Mm-hmm. Why am I here? Why me? Why do all these things happen to me? Many of these things are in my memoir, Petra's Ashes. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to bring some consciousness to certain people. I always know when I meet someone if I need to work with that person or not, right away. People don't just randomly drop into our lives. I feel there's a design. I'm a messenger to them to help get to the next level. And I've been blessed, I mean, incredibly blessed with visions and with my near-death experience and so many things, my studies in India for 11 years with my teacher. I mean, there's so many miracles that have happened in my life. I cannot just treat them as sort of random events. And most people do. We have these events that take place and we think, oh, that's okay, that was great. But what is the purpose of it? If we are given such grace and miracles, then there is a reason for that. And therefore, we need to either share it or write about it, or, I don't know, go to go somewhere and be of service. Go to Africa and be of service. And so my service is writing and coaching people. So I have clients that I coach. And luckily, they're all millennials right now, so I'm very, very happy.
Wonderful. That's a great experience.
I love working with the youngins.
Well, that's wonderful. And so as you answer that question for yourself, you've answered the question for your main character, Derek, and then he's somebody else as he comes back. Eli, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to read the book in order to find out what Eli thinks is his purpose. But it sounds like it's partially in music, since he's a rock star. So I love the idea of discovering your purpose and using it to affect the world. And like you said, we are all in the process of awakening. So how do you think that this book would help people become more awakened to their own responsibility for their own purpose?
Well, the idea is a lot of people want to be rich. People want to be rich. They want to be beautiful. They want to be famous. Not everybody, there are some people that really like to just live in a cave. Like, I mean, that idea is not really that attractive to some of my friends. They would rather live in a shack in the forest and be a farmer, So, but for a lot of people in this world, they want all those things. And with those things comes a responsibility. And so in the back of my book, it says, here's the book, it just arrived yesterday. It says, here it is, I'm so glad. And you can see that cover is pretty cool. Can you see
I love the book and the light coming out of the book. I just think it's a brilliantly done cover, Petra. It's so really
curious.
Thank you. It's like it's our book of life. We are constantly writing a new book. Each lifetime you write a new story, a new book, and there's a continuum. You don't just die. There is no death. And why are we here? What was the question again? Sorry. I'm looking out the window to the meadow, and there's like 10 deer going by right now. And
how beautiful, beautiful. You're talking about how there are no accidents, and that we connect with twin flames or soulmates, and we have these experiences that we're contracted to come in with and to grow and learn together, and to hopefully make a difference in humanity. One of the things that you talk about is the ability to do things correctly the next time, in the next incarnation, and I wonder what your thoughts, the thoughts that you're sharing in your writing are about how those reincarnations and the ability to do it better next time, or to learn more, to expand again next time, how those things are affecting the general overall energy of humanity. Do you see there being a continual cycle of lower level energies and higher level energies, and that all pretty much balancing identically through, over centuries? Or do you actually believe there is an expansion of energy on the planet as a result of those new chances each time?
Well, I've heard many different pieces of information about this. I mean, if you talk to Krishna devotees who are studying the Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata and many of the Indian scriptures, we're in the Yuga. We come out of the Kali Yuga and we go back into a different Yuga, a different age. And if each age is hundreds of thousands of years long, I mean, or we can look at it as another teacher of mine that said that we have already 1 foot in the photon belt. That means our vibration, our frequency is now enhanced. So we're seeing people really having to learn some of the basic spiritual principles now, or they won't be happy. I mean, look at what's happening with our money markets. Look at what's happening with technology. And I really believe that much of the technology that's available has not been released to people, that there's technology out there way more advanced that is being held back.
I agree.
Yeah.
I believe that the old structure is now falling because it has to, because it is time now for humans to evolve. There are also schools of thought that believe that humanity was just an experiment, and sometimes when we see wars and we see those horrible things and discussions about nuclear wars going on, you wonder if humanity deserves to be on a beautiful planet like this.
Well, those are all questions I think that run through people's minds when we live in a duality universe. But as we awaken, we can concentrate on more enlightened thinking. There was something that you mentioned about, getting back to your book, that why we forget about everything when we leave this earth. There are a lot of spiritual teachers who say that that's so. And I think that's what your character does. Does he not forget? And then Michael reminds him about his past life. Yeah.
Yes, the slate is wiped. All gone.
Slate.
I had a friend who committed suicide, someone very, very close to me, who was only 25 years old. And he came in a dream where he had to pass through the Manzarova Lake, and he was crying. He did not want to go with his guide through this lake that is the transition into the next world, because all your memories are wiped clean. So you have no memory, and it made him very sad. But then, the mother picked him up and scooped him up out of the river and put him on her chest and took him away. So
he remembered who he was.
I believe that we come back with a new set of ideas, and we come back with new karma. And I do believe that we carry our karma with us. And so if we have massive remorse, to get back to that, about remorse when we're seeing our life review, and in Derek Stryker's, I mean, I don't want to give away the whole book. So,
no.
But Derek Stryker did some pretty bad things. I mean, he was not exactly a nice guy. He has some redeeming qualities because he wasn't entirely his fault, So he turned into this because as a child he was neglected and he was farmed out to nannies and so forth. And so he couldn't really develop that deep compassion, that deep empathy that children have that have a balanced home life. And so when he sees this, I mean, he's now in the other world. He's now in some kind of substation of heaven or something. And he's being shown what's going on and what he did. He says, I want to be in Calcutta, break my legs, make me a blind man, make me a poor man, but don't send me back as a rich man because,
you messed up the first time.
I messed up. And if I'm rich again, I'm going to mess up again. I just know it. And so Michael makes a deal with him because he signed the contract with Gemini. So he has no choice. He has to come back as a rich person. But this time he's being guided.
Well, this is a very exciting novel, Petra. This is, it's going to be so wonderful for people to read something like this because it addresses so many questions that are so prevalent in our society today. And it also has such a transformational bent to it as well. So it opens it up into spirituality and it's very exciting. I congratulate you on, and I think you're like, what is your category now on Amazon? I think it was really high up there, wasn't it? Last time we talked?
Well, we did at least for a few days. We did number 3 in Germany or Europe, and Amazon, and 23 in the United States. So that was really exciting.
That's fantastic. You know, it's the top 100 is a bestseller. So when you think about how many, you know, literally tens of thousands of new books a day are published. Getting up to 23, getting up, you know, in America, getting up to 3 is really, really remarkable. And, you know, congratulations on that. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
It really is.
Yeah. And we hope folks will go pick up the book. It's, they can, you're on Amazon, right? And so they can look you up by the title of the book, The Billionaire.
Yes,
correct?
it's exactly, or just plug in Petra Nicoll author and my page comes up, or go to petranicoll.com. I also have a website called thebillionairenovel.com, and I have a little video that my friend Atep in Bali made for me that is really exciting.
I like it.
Fun. That can be seen on thebillionairenovel.com.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, you know that you can actually post that video, I would imagine, on your author page, your author central page on Amazon. Did you know that?
I did that already.
Okay, great. All right. Beautiful. So that's everybody, that's petranicoll.com. And we'll have that link attached to this video as well on YouTube. So yeah, go check out Petra's work. Check out what she offers in coaching. Really amazing stuff. Her other books, and
she's an amazing lady.
Well, thank you. And I have to say, I'm working on a sequel, and it's called The Billionaire Soulmates.
Oh, wonderful.
Do you want to give us any of the skinny on that? You want to tease us a little bit about that sequel?
Well, Eli meets this woman, Angelina, who is a yoga teacher, and her father is from India and her mother is from the United States, and she grows up in an ashram. Mm-hmm. And when he meets her in a yoga studio, he falls instantly in love with her. Mm-hmm. And so they have this incredible tantric relationship, and he's just learning to wake up. You know, so she becomes his teacher, but then it doesn't really work out. They break up in the story, and he also finds out that she's an aspiring actress, but he really misses her, and he's on tour all the time, and he works so much as a biggest rock star in the world. He's on the road all the time. And so the next book is about the whole idea that everyone thinks, oh, I want to meet my soulmate. Oh, I want to fall in love. Why can't I fall in love? Why can't I meet my soulmate? And, soulmates aren't exactly all it's made out to be. When you meet your soulmate, you better be ready because you have to do a lot of work.
Yes.
So the next book is about really empowering women. And it has to do with the high priestess and with that energy of women really coming forward now in our world, speaking up and being listened to. And so that's all I'm going to give away about that.
That's very nice of you. That's really enticing to look out for that sequel.
What a great storyline. Yeah, that sounds like a really fun story too.
And there's some sexy scenes in there too,
Yeah, good job. That sounds really great.
you so much for being on our show, Petra. This has been wonderful. Really enjoyed it, and hope you'll come on again and talk about your sequel when that's ready as well. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching, and I hope you'll be back again soon. And we're all kind of on that journey to finding out who we really are. And we'll keep plugging away at that. And
speaking of that, I wonder, Petra, if you had any just final thoughts that you wanted to share with the audience before we sign off today. What would you have to say?
I actually do. How did you just read my mind, Dagny?
we're connected like that, aren't we?
So when you go to my author page on Amazon, there are my book signings are listed. And if people order within the next week, the novel is discounted to $15 instead of $17.95. And if they order through my website, they just need to write me a note, and I'll send them a coupon for $15, and they'll get a signed copy from me, an autographed copy. And please come to the book signings; it's going to be fun.
That's nice. That's really great.
Signings are listed on your site, correct?
They're listed on my site. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much again. And
thank you for having me. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thanks to all of our audience out there, and thanks to you, Dagny. So we'll be signing off.
Ciao.
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 Peace out, everybody.